Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero! Back, Fuchs. And the ball in behind Damian Vardy! It's 11! It's heaven for Jamie Vardy!
You are an ostrich. Well, your head must be in the sand. Is your head in the sand? Are you flexible enough to get your head in the sand?
Now the fans are shouting every week, Louis van Gaal's army! Louis van Gaal's army!
Feet after a fabulous start, the game just got away from you there.
I have nothing to say.
Nothing to say about the game at all.
Drama from day one! This is the league we want to watch!
Oh, yeah.
Here we are,
Oh, yeah.
ready to grade some defenses.
Yes. Yes, we are ready to grade some defenses, aren't we?
That was absolutely the plan all along, and I definitely did not just spend the last hour and a half doing some research on different teams' attacks.
Yeah, that's okay.
Definitely not. I've been studying defenses my whole life.
Hey, well, we can go over these things.
So we're cooking. We're cooking defensive tier list. Who's trash and who's super hot fire?
Who's goated?
Who
with
is
the sauce?
absolutely goated?
Tiers, obviously, we just go grade, letter grade, F, D, C, B, A. We'll be breaking down last year's quality, differences from last year, the best aspects of each defense, the worst aspects of each defense. Sam, it's kind of hard to make it as balanced as possible. Mm-hmm. For a while, I had a lot in the B tier and almost added another team to B tier, but I was like, that's too much. We need a little more C plus action.
Spread it out, give it the old bell curve.
But then I was like, there's going to be a lot of teams in the D tier anyways. So
yeah, that's just how the cookie crumbles. You know, real life isn't a statistical graph.
That was my that's the way I broke it down. Was I took the average goal conceded and kind of went based off that. Because I think average goals conceded last year was like 54, 55, something like that. And I started basing it off that, what happened last year, what's different this year and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start off, Sam. There's one team in the F tier.
Yes.
And you know, it's kind of weird because you never know if the championship team's defenses will translate and whatnot. But all three teams that came up last year, Sam, were the top three defenses in the championship. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
So at least you got some, that should be their strong points, or you would think at some point. I put Nottingham Forest as the worst defense.
The team which, when forced to move, absolutely crumbled.
I mean, forced to move is, one thing. If they didn't play low block, it was just over. They're going to get cooked. I mean, part of that, too, is they don't really have much midfield support.
Yes.
People not super high on Dean Henderson's performances last year. I thought he was fine. Around average, maybe a little below average, given the quality of the league. Your guy Wayne Hennessy is technically the starting keeper right now. I think Keylor Navas on loan. But getting to it, Joe Worrell, Steve Cook, Nico Williams, Niakate is probably the main piece. Serge Aurier was a staple last year.
Scott
Felipe
McKenna.
as well. Yeah, Scott McKenna. He was doing something. He was having some tactical handballs out there to start the year. Willie Bolly made way too many appearances.
Yes.
Last year. So obviously last year quality very, very bad, especially on the road versus at home. Differences from last year, I don't see any. There have been no signings.
Well, I mean, one is Renan Lodi.
I guess he's coming back.
No, he wasn't. He.
Oh, he's not. He's not
he was
coming
on
back.
loan.
Yeah.
So he's not coming back.
Yeah, I saw. Well, last time I saw he was supposed to come back, but they haven't signed him yet.
As of now, we
Yes.
can only go off of what.
Yes, true. We can't fully read the future.
Yeah.
Except for things that are almost concrete, which nothing seems to be concrete minus the fact they haven't signed anyone yet.
Yeah, which is not super surprising after they signed like 9 million guys
Yeah,
in the last
apparently
window.
they're looking at the holding midfielder from PSV who was rumored last year with about a 25, 30 million pound move to West Ham that never came to fruition. So we'll see if they sign him. He should be a good boost. I said that their main thing they would need is a ball winner in midfield. I think that would give them a good staple and at least take some pressure off their terrible defense. But yeah, it was really Steve Cooper kind of playing musical chairs back there in terms of rotation, and it was bad. There was no real solution.
Yeah, I don't know. You have all these center backs, like you said, Worrell, McKenna, Willie Boley. I mean, all those guys are championship center backs. Niakate maybe
that
serviceable.
gets to my best aspect, Niakate, which is not good. He should not be your best aspect of your defense.
But you also got to factor in those long throws.
Yeah, I suppose.
Cash money.
What about Serge Aurier? The Nottingham Forest fans love him and act like he's good.
Yeah, that's
their worst
strange.
aspect has to be, I mean, probably the wide defenders, even though they played 3 center backs at times last year. But Nico Williams was good to start, and then they just stopped playing him, and then it was like, oh, I don't know what to think now. Although, just the fact they have to play Willie Boley is probably the worst part of their defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think playing 3 center backs when that's like your weakest position,
Yeah.
that's pretty rough.
Steve Cooper's mega mind, though. He says, that's our worst. Let's embrace it. Let's work on
We'll just add in another one to make up for the fact that they're all kind of trash.
Before we move on, do you think it's fair I put them as worst? You could probably give a shout to a couple other teams, but
Yeah, it's tough to say with the teams coming up. You can't really judge what their defense is going to be like against Premier League opposition.
Yes, we saw that with Watford, who had the best defense 2 years ago, and they were coming up, and then they immediately went back down, and their defense was no good.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yes. All right, now we get to the next tier, the D tier. I have Bournemouth as a D minus.
D minus.
D minus. I think they conceded 71 goals last year.
Mm-hmm.
You can double check that. Neto and net, very solid. Very solid. Kept them in the D tier. However, I just don't trust all their defenders. I felt like their depth was not very good, to say the least. Was a bit underwhelmed with Lloyd Kelly and Mepham, to say the least.
Yeah.
Senesi wasn't as good as I thought either. But, what could I say? Adam Smith was kind of on his last legs there. They have the big Ukrainian guy, though.
Yeah, Zabarnyi. So he's kind of maybe he'll be the first choice center back going forward. Lloyd Kelly was meh.
Yeah, I mean he's kind of, he's not young, but 24.
Yeah.
He's still got a little room. He could have a breakout.
To me, he's not really a center back.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a mix between a center back and a fullback.
Fullback, yeah.
Doesn't really excel at either.
Yes. Would you say Trevoh Chalobah tier?
No, I'd say he's just bad.
Mark Travers in net with Neto. Did you know Darren Randolph's their third string? That's pretty good third string.
Did you know Darren Randolph, according to Transfermarkt, is a United States international?
I was hoping that you were going to say worth like $100K or something like that. I was going to
Close,
be like,
$400K.
hey, that's pretty good. Best aspects, I guess you would probably say the center backs. Specifically, Senesi is supposed to be kind of the staple for their team after spending some decent money on him. They've brought in Ryan Fredericks.
Yeah, that didn't really do much.
I mean it's not going to change many things with them. I feel like if they add anything this year, I think it makes sense for them to add to their defense. Whereas yet they're looking to add Adam Scott from Bristol City. I feel like the attack is fine. The midfield aspect is the attack in midfield aspect is fine, I should say. I just feel like they should kind of, try to add more in defense.
Yeah, I think in the fullback region, they're looking a little light.
And they don't have a wonder goal scorer Vigna anymore on loan, right? They didn't buy him, I don't think, or not officially.
No, I don't think so.
So sad for Bournemouth. So I guess you'd say best aspect probably Senesi, unless you want to go Neto. Worst aspect, fullbacks, you're saying. Is there room to grow for Bournemouth? I'd say yes, but I feel like it is still dependent on them signing someone.
Yeah, I mean, they got some young guys. Zabarnyi's only 20, Senesi's 26, Lloyd Kelly 24, like you're saying. So they could have a core there to build off of, but they're looking a little light.
My eyes can't forget how they looked on set piece defending last year.
Horrendous.
That was really bad. Let's move on. Another D tier team, Sam. One of Sam's favorite teams, Sheffield United.
Sheffield United, the first appearance by a newly promoted team.
Yeah. Wes Fodderingham in net last year. You know a couple of their guys that they had last time, George Baldock, John Egan.
Chris Basham.
Yeah. I mean, we saw them last time. They had one good year, and they immediately went down. They have a lot of core pieces still from that team.
That is true.
They have one or two guys that's more in the attacking sense that are a bit different, so that's at least good for them. They don't have to rely on David McGoldrick, but second best defense only to Burnley in the championship last year. I think you'd say that their best aspect has to be their center back quality and experience. Worst aspect, maybe Fodderingham. I don't know how good he is. I'll just say it. Not afraid to say it, Sam. I don't know how good he is.
I don't know how good he is either.
Could he be the best West in the Premier League? He has to beat Wes O'Hoolahan. That's pretty tough.
Dude, Wes Hoolahan, a.k.a. Wessie, is goated. Always will be goated. Never
That's
forget.
your favorite Norwich player of all
The
time.
streets won't forget Wessie.
They have, and you know what? That's how you know this podcast is super in-depth.
Yeah, well, Wessie's the GOAT.
Yes. You haven't heard much about Sheffield bringing in guys. There's talks that they might have one or two guys head out, but that, again, we'll save that for the midfield and attack aspect. Mm-hmm. I could see them getting someone on like a free or something like that, but I couldn't imagine much more else. So it kind of, I think, will be one of the bottom tier defenses in the league this next year. But at least they have some decent midfield aspects that can kind of help as far as protect them, unlike a team like Forest.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see this Ahmedžić, the Bosnian, 35 appearances, 23 years old. Scored 6 goals last season.
Yes.
So, yeah. We'll see. Some question marks there.
Next up, we have Luton Town.
The
team who gets their first home game suspended because they can't even fix their stadium in time. Oh, I tell you what, I was surprised I knew as many guys on this team. Only really one or two defenders that I knew. But given the fact that the way they play, kind of a very defensive-oriented style, but they have a lot of rotation last year, a lot of guys getting different appearances and stuff. Mm-hmm. Seems like they're trying to buy a real good championship tier players, which makes me wonder. It's like, are they just preparing to instantly go down and then hopefully bounce back up by having good championship players? It's very odd.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
If I was Luton, I wouldn't be expecting to stay up. I think of this as more like a bonus year where you're going to get some good cash and you should focus on the future, not just try and spend a ton of money to try and stay in the Premier League, but, try and have
Yeah.
some pieces brought in to strengthen the squad.
At least
over
you
the
have the
next
nobody
5
believes
years.
in us aspect, and the
That is true.
you don't have any pressure on you to stay out. Best and worst aspects. I mean, right now as far as their ability to, they have a bunch of guys making different appearances last year. I mean, depth seems to be a good option for them. If you're able to have a quality defense last year, and there weren't guys there where it's like it's just only 4 guys playing the whole time, pretty decent. But we'll see. They lost Sam's guy, Southampton legend James Bree, halfway through the season last year.
Yeah, looking at their squad, it looks like they're a bit short on fullbacks. They have 1 left back and no right backs.
Mm-hmm.
But they have 5 center backs, so I'm sure one of them probably played as a fullback at some time.
Well, they have a guy named Mats Andersen who's Danish, so I think they just try to create a spawn clone of Joachim Andersen. I think that's what they were going for. All right, moving on. You might tell me, Sam, that this is a hot take, and you could tell me that. Don't be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I have Tottenham next.
Tottenham Hotspur in the D tier.
Not only in the D tier, behind Burnley and Everton. But let's take a look at Tottenham's team, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the number here, but the amount they conceded last year was surprisingly high. I think it was in the 60s.
63.
That's pretty bad, given the fact that they sat back as much as they did and tried to absorb pressure.
Let me tell you who conceded fewer goals than Tottenham Hotspur. That's below them.
Yeah.
Brentford, Fulham, Crystal Palace, Chelsea, Wolves, West Ham, Everton. Yeah. Wait, I said 63.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So you have Romero. I guess that's your star piece. Pedro Porro is probably your best player, but defensively isn't going to be the best or most talented. He's definitely going to be going more forward, but it's just a rotation of championship tier guys, in my opinion. Joe Rodon, Ben Davis. Jed Spence will be an added addition to this team. Very odd they bought him last year just to loan him out instantly when they didn't have much quality at fullback or wingback. Davinson Sanchez apparently is on his way out. I think they still technically have Reguilon on loan, and they have that Destiny Udogi guy who is on Udinese. So we'll see. I guess they have some unknown aspects, but then they're holding on to guys like Tanganga. It's just like, it's just dead weight back there for a lot of it.
yeah. And, I mean, you got a lot of fullbacks. You got Reguilon coming back from loan, Pedro Porro, Emerson Royal, Ben Davies, Jed Spence. And then in terms of center backs, you got Romero and Dyer, kind of like the only 2 somewhat serviceable center backs. And even that, they're not the level that Tottenham should be aspiring to have.
Yeah.
Those guys should be more like a third choice center back rather than a first choice.
Yeah, they have a lot of work to do, especially in defense. Obviously, they got Madison this year, but still a lot to do. Apparently, looking at Mickey Van de Ven from Wolfsburg and Edmund Tapsoba from Bayer Leverkusen, so they're tapping into the Bundesliga market. Some pacey guys there that they're going for. We'll see. I don't think that'd be terrible options, to say the least. But
Yeah, I mean, they need someone to compete with Dyer and Romero. I mean, Tanganga is just not good enough.
no, and even then, I mean, you're not in European competition, so they probably won't go like overboard. But they definitely need to bring in 2 center backs for sure.
Yeah.
So best aspect, Romero, I guess. Worst aspect, depth, to say the least. I think there's a chance that their best aspect could end up being that goalie from Empoli, but that might also just be the fact that Lloris was so bad last year.
That's true.
That we're just like, oh my God, Tottenham have a goalie.
That's a big upgrade.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say before we move on?
No.
Okay. Next we have Burnley. Not your typical Sean Dyche Burnley. Obviously, a little more possession. So there's going to be a little bit more asked of the defenders in a sense that they might be left on an island a little more. But brought in a couple guys. Dara O'Shea, I believe, is on West Brom most recently. Still solid guys. Connor Roberts, fantastic here last year in the Championship. Jordan Beyer was an important cog in their defense last year. Young 23-year-old defender. So I think, if we're looking at last year's quality, obviously best defense in the Championship. Differences from last year, getting O'Shea. Best aspect, probably depth. They have a good amount of defenders, though, and they still have experience in guys like Charlie Taylor and stuff. Probably won't be relying on them. They are missing guys in terms of Maatsen from Chelsea, who was on loan last year. So we'll see how they replace that. Maybe they bring in another defender or so, but I'm sure they'll want to get their attack sorted out as well. As last year Nathan Tella was a huge part, and they don't have him now. So you're back to Wout Weghorst.
Yeah, like you said, they have good center back depth, kind of just good depth all around. But my question mark with this team, very young defense, having young center backs together, potentially dangerous.
Yes.
It's kind of like a potential for a high upside, but also a potential for, some low moments.
Especially it's one thing to have when you're thinking, I said that there's a lot asked of them. It's different when you're possession, holding the ball, playing out the back versus a lot asked when you're just low block, clearing balls, when it's the Dyche system with Tarkovsky and me. But
yeah,
there's going to be a lot. It'll be interesting to see. I believe in them more, I think, than a good chunk of people, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, considering that your head coach was one of the great defenders.
Specifically center backs of the Premier League.
Yeah, definitely
helps.
Helps for sure. Gives you a little more faith that he could mold them into the quality players that
and knows what he wants from them.
Yeah.
Last in the D tier, the D+, Everton. A lot of this rides on Pickford and Tarkovsky. Pretty decent defense last year at times. Quite frustrating. There's just games where they were so slow, lackadaisical. But there were moments where Tarkovsky and Cody looked fantastic together. And then they said, no more Connor Cody. Sam's guy, Michael Keane, please come in. A lot of rotation last year, especially at fullback. They signed Ashley Young.
The most Everton signing ever. Signed
a
38-year-old.
This
Ashley
is why
Young.
I'm leaning towards them just going full Sunderland mode and going down. Still going to have Seamus, even though he's hurt at the end of last year.
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance they just keep Jared Branthwaite this go-around, and he's plugged in as their second main center back, but I guess we'll see. We said Tottenham had a lot of dead weight. I still feel like Everton are that way. Holgate, Godfrey.
I personally, I think I rate Holgate a little higher than you. I mean, considering the fact that you just said he's dead weight.
Yes.
I think there's potential for him to be a decent player. I mean, I think he's better than Michael Keane.
Well, that's not saying much.
So,
Michael Keane is very bad. Michael Keane's also 30.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Michael Keane's also 30, so.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like this is a lot of nut cutting time for guys like Patterson. I mean, yeah, sure, he's 21, and Mikolenko's 24, but we've seen them for a while now, and there just hasn't been the growth that we'd like to see, or consistency rather. I guess we've seen a little bit of growth and quality, but I need a little more consistency out of them. Obviously, Pickford is, typically stats-wise a top 5 goalie each year because he has such a high volume in terms of shots he faces, and he's high quality, so he's going to save a lot of them. But, yeah. What would you say their best aspect is?
Yeah, I mean, for sure it's got to be
Pickford?
Pickford.
What about their worst aspect?
Their worst aspect, I would say...
Second center back or fullbacks?
I would
Probably
say
second center back.
second center back, and then I would say like competition for fullbacks. I mean, Ashley Young and Seamus Coleman, are they...
Plus Tarkovsky, plus Michael Keane. If you add those together, that's like a combined age of like 140.
It's just like 200.
What are we talking about here? Yeah, I think there's potential for Everton to be lower and border on like D plus or D minus tier, but also they have Sean Dyche, so I have a little more faith in them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, talking about Sean Dyche's Burnley. This is now Sean Dyche's Everton. You
Yes.
plug in a lot of very experienced guys, not flashy young players like Burnley is doing now.
The only problem
It's a
is
different
that
approach.
with Sean Dyche's Burnley versus this Everton, like somehow weirdly enough, I felt better about guys like Westwood and like even like Goodmanson and guys like that. They're fringe guys that they rotate. I don't feel good about Everton's depth. So we'll see with Everton, but I feel they have a lot of potential to go down, and unless they make a signing, I don't see any way they move up from D plus.
Yeah,
I
I don't really see any area where they have space to add in another player.
They'd have to sell one or two and then spend
Yeah.
money, and they're not going to spend money.
Yeah.
Finally to the C tier. The C minus, the first C minus team, Sam. West Ham United.
Yes, sir.
Solid year out of Fabianski last year. You still have Areola in the wings. I like the center back pairing of Zuma and Aguerd. Aguerd has a good potential in terms of, could probably be, even though he is 27, I mean, he could be a little more than
Still
West Ham tier, but
plenty of time for a center back perspective.
yeah, not, still getting used to the Premier League and stuff. He reminds me of our predictions where it's like 75% of the time. It's like, wow, yeah. And then the 25% that's bad, it's like, holy man,
Yeah, it's really
bad.
rough.
The fullbacks could definitely use an upgrade.
Yeah.
Soufal's fine. He was good at one point. He's fine now. Cresswell, same thing, was good at one time. He's fine now.
Yeah, he's toasted.
Emerson. He'll always be kind of more of a wingback kind of guy, I feel like. Ben Johnson, I'm just out. I get he's 23. I just feel like maybe if he goes to a team where he's like constantly playing and plays every single minute of every match, maybe, but I don't know.
Well, I think he should be playing
Yeah.
the nailed-on starter for West Ham at this point.
It's okay. I feel better about Ben Johnson than Carragher. I'm out. I'm officially out on that.
I was
that gentleman.
I was out on Carragher like the second I saw him touch a ball. It's like, all right, this guy is not good. Yeah, see, this is the problem with David Moyes. You got guys like Soufal and Cresswell that he just keeps
staying loyal to.
But really, you need to refresh.
Yeah.
And, whether Ben Johnson and Emerson are the right guys to come in.
That's up for debate.
For
sure.
debate, yeah. And then you got the center back position. You got Aguerd and Kurt the Cat Kicker, which is decent. And then the depth behind that is pretty rough. I mean,
best
Kara and Ogbonna.
Yeah, best aspect. Well, Ogbonna's like 35.
Yeah, exactly.
Best aspect has to be the goalkeeping pairing. Worst aspect has to be the fullback kind of
uncertainty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Anything else you'd like to say before we move on?
I guess it'll be interesting to see too next season without Declan Rice. Obviously,
true.
That's going to make an impact. And
100%. You don't have a madman getting the ball.
Yeah, still waiting to see who they're going to go after to
Apparently they're
replace.
lining up, and this isn't a Rice replacement or anything, but they're lining up a 25 million pound bid for James Ward-Prowse. They're surprisingly not just jumping right into it.
Yeah.
I respect that they're at least waiting a bit.
25 mil is reasonable.
Yes. Next we have Fulham.
Yeah.
Very solid year last year out of Bernd Leno. Great year. Amazing year out of Tim Ream.
Career year.
Yes. Kenny Tete, very nice season last year. Anthony Robinson at times, it was more kind of going forward, but he was at least better in defense than I thought he would be. Tosin, he's Reddit football and
Yeah,
Twitter
Reddit,
football.
yeah,
they kind of rate
exactly.
him. We don't. And Babu might be the worst player of the year last year that we had to witness.
Oh, he should have been up for a hanky.
Worst player alive.
That guy. Oh,
Issa Diop, I guess, was better than when he was on West Ham, but I still don't have much faith.
I think he's serviceable.
Yeah, he's definitely, like I said, better than when he's on West Ham. When he's on West Ham, that just wasn't going to go. My main concern with this team is that if Ream and Leno drop off even a little bit, it could be
Yeah, it's
real bad.
concerning when you're relying on Tim Ream. And, we saw at the end of the season, once he was hurt and Tosin came in, their defense took a big step down. And,
Yes.
and people don't want to acknowledge it, but Tosin was the problem. He is super error prone,
Well, part of it's Tosin's the problem, and part of it Tim Ream was like
goated.
top 5 defender in the Premier League last year.
That is true.
It's a good quality last year. Differences, they haven't brought in anyone.
No.
That's a little concerning. I'm only going to touch on it for a second because it's attack and we're doing defense, but Mitrovic apparently potentially going to Saudi Arabia
The
for 30
Saudis.
to 35 mil. That'd be, honestly, I would cash in if I was Fulham, but that's just me.
I think I'd wait. I'd say like
If they gave you
50
40,
mil.
50, oh.
Yeah.
Injury prone kind of striker.
I saw Fulham without Mitrovic, and I was like, okay, who scores the goals?
Tom Kearney
no,
against Leicester.
no Willian.
Oh, that one.
Yeah,
Oof.
well, Tom Kearney now is Leicester, so
Yes. Yeah, he
is
owned
soon
them.
to be.
He owned them. Anything else you'd like to say before we move on? What's their best and worst aspect? Best aspect still, I guess, is Leno, and worst aspect is,
Depth.
yeah, that's especially that second center back spot.
Wow, I don't know. They're when you got Kevin Mbabu on the books here.
Yeah, and they would not be C tier if Tim Ream and Leno weren't so good last year, which is saying a lot.
They were collecting washed fullbacks like Pokemon cards. They had Cedric Suarez.
Hey, man, did you know he played for Arsenal in their last friendly against Nuremberg?
Sure did.
Why is he playing
He
for
got
Arsenal?
he got cooked.
Okay. Next team, Wolves. A solid C. Could be, you could talk me into them being slightly higher. I'm a little just down on them in general. They have Saw and Bentley. Sounds like Jose Saw is going to be sold potentially to Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
But they want to get a replacement first. As far as defense, whoever was a guy who played 2 years ago,
Yeah.
didn't play last year, is loaned out. This year it sounds like he's going to play. Ait Nouri apparently might be sold. Johnny Castro's up for sale. Sounds like they're going to have kind of a clear out. So
Johnny Castro.
yeah, Johnny. Well, Johnny Otto.
Johnny Otto.
Yeah.
I only know one Johnny Otto.
Johnny Otto. So I guess it's Kilman, Semedo, Dawson that are for sure's. They'll probably rely more on Tati Gomez, I suppose, too.
Don't forget
Hugo Bueno. Absolutely. I'll never forget
Muy
him.
bueno.
So I guess, depth will be a concern for them. Can Craig Dawson just play amazing for the end of time? Is he ever going to drop off? He was dropping off with West Ham, and we're like, all right, yeah.
Then he
what-
just needs a new team, and he's gonna be.
What if
popping
he
off.
just rotated the team until he's 40? I'd love that.
Yeah, yeah. They sold Nathan Collins.
Yeah, for about 25 mil.
Yeah,
That was pretty decent.
decent business.
And I don't mind it for Brentford either. I think that's fair all the way around.
Yeah, rumored to be interested in Calvin Kelleher, which
Yes,
I would
that'd be
love
nice.
that. Kelleher
Yeah.
for Saw
And
would
what's
be
a good,
like such a good trade.
Yeah, I mean, and you probably only have to pay like 10 mil for him, I would assume.
That would be, I'd be snapping that up.
Yes.
Meanwhile, you got teams like Southampton buying guys like Gavin Bazunu.
Oh, stinky. So best aspect, definitely still the center back pairing of Dawson and Kilman. Worst aspect has to be the fullback situation at the moment. Yeah.
Speaking of a team that's just like so bloated with
Dead weight.
dead weight, I mean, there's all these guys I don't know. Deion Sanderson,
Deion Sanders?
Ryan Giles, Hoover didn't play last year because he's got a bad attitude. Bendiges Bola, like who are these guys that are just
Harvey Griffiths.
on the team?
Don't
like,
forget Joe Hodge. He's pretty good. Same with Luke Kundle.
Well, those guys are more like midfield, but
I know, but still.
and don't talk about my boy Luke Kundle. He's
The
gonna be going.
the Irish.
Give him 5 years.
The Irish lad. I have a
I'm
weird
pretty
feeling
sure he's
Wolves.
English, but yes.
I have a weird feeling Wolves can shoot up these rankings. They just have to bring in one or two more guys, let one or two guys leave, and I'd feel a lot better about them.
Yes.
Specifically selling Saw. I wouldn't be totally opposed to selling Kilman if you got that 40 from him for Napoli, but I feel like that might just be a made-up rumor, and they're just trying to extend him.
Yeah, I don't know.
That feels weird.
Kilman is like the spine of the team.
Yeah. But if you're having money trouble and you sell him for 40, you could patch something together. Him for 40, Saw for like 10 to 20,
I don't know.
probably 10 to 15.
Sell Fabio Silva, would you?
Well, yes, that needs to happen. Whatever you get for him, 20. If you get 20 mil for him, just take it.
Looking at this squad hurts my eyes.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
what-
really bad. They're just
This has the marks of like 3 different managers
yeah.
just going YOLO.
I need this guy, and they'll forever keep Pedro Porro. Oh, we're getting off track.
Pedro Porro?
Or not Pedro Porro, Pedro Neto.
Pedro.
Moving on. This might be a little low, but their defense actually wasn't that great last year, no matter what people tell you, other than Mr. Dunk. We're talking about Brighton and Hove Albion. A little bit of mix-up in the goalkeeping scenario, a little carousel. Bobby Sanchez was their staple for a while. Attitude issues, quality, a little drop-off. Then we have Jason Steele comes in, plays pretty decent. Now they got your guy Bart Simpson
Verbruggen.
the Dutch Bart Simpson. Some guys that just kind of disappointed me last year, like Lamptey and stuff. Estupinan was good, but a bit more going forward than in actual defense. Decent year out of Veltman. Lewis Dunk, obviously the staple. Webster is bound to be a little better this year, given the fact that he's kind of in and out of the lineup at times.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll incorporate this Van Hecke guy that they've been loaning out, another Dutch.
He played a
Dutch
little
line.
bit towards the end of the season there.
Yeah,
when Dunk was hurt, but you could tell there was a drop off, especially the way that Brighton play with
I guess last year was on their under
invite
21s too for most of the year.
how they invite pressure on. That's very demanding on the center backs.
Yes, always has been, always will be, especially now with De Zerbi fully playing out of the back holding the ball.
It'll expose you very quick.
Yes. So there's appreciation there, but also the quality isn't that amazing. And mainly the thing that's throwing me off is the goalkeeper situation. And maybe, the Dutch Bart Simpson is pretty decent for him. Who knows?
He's only 20, which is really young for a
Are you saying we're
goalkeeper.
in for Bazunu 2.0? The Dutch Bazunu?
I'm saying
Bart
Jason
Bazunu?
Steele,
Bart.
Man of Steel.
Yes.
Yeah, it was interesting. Lamptey didn't really play much of a part in the
Yeah.
last season.
Maybe someone gets him on loan if he's not in De Zerbi's plan, but we'll see. Obviously, last year quality fairly decent. Differences from last year as we went over. There's not a ton of differences, but there's a little mix-up with the goalkeeping scenario. Best aspect, obviously, Lewis Dunk, fantastic. Worst aspect, hard to say worst aspect, but it probably is that goalkeeper rotation.
Yeah,
The
I don't
fullback
think there necessarily is a worse aspect.
Yeah, we're at the point now where we're just kind of splitting hairs if we get to.
I would say the worst aspect is like future considerations on how you move forward from the players that are currently in the lineup.
Yes. Anything else you'd like to say before we move on to the last C-tier team?
Let's do it.
Crystal Palace. I thought about putting them as B-. I put them as C+ tier. I think that's fair. Pretty decent year last year, say the least. I think part of that is even just Doucouré helping out more in midfield and stuff like that. And
100%.
yeah,
100%.
quite a pretty solid year. Sam Johnstone got a little play time.
Yeah.
Obviously Joe Ward, staple, along with Gahey and Anderson being the strength of the team if you're looking at what's good about them.
Yeah, I think that's such a big plus. They have that nailed-on center back pairing of Gahey and Anderson that have been solid for the past 2 years. You know what you're going to get.
Yeah, don't forget Yarrow Riedeveld. James Tompkins, though, as the backup center back. Well, I guess Chris Richards and then James Tompkins.
I like Chris Richards.
He's fine.
I
to say
think
the
Chris
least.
Richards could be starting on a bottom 5 team.
That's fair. I won't
think
argue
he's
with you there. When he's in, he it's not like he sticks out like a sore thumb.
No, I think he fits in pretty well, and I think there's worse center backs that start in the league.
To say the least. I'm not going to disagree with you there. I think my main concern for Palace has to be Joel Ward getting a little older, even though he's good. Same with Nathaniel Klein.
Yeah, he's
obviously getting hurt towards the end of the year last year. Both 32 and 33.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be that fullback spot. And you have kind of a 3-man rotation for 2 spots, which I like. But I just feel like that age, it's nice to have the experience, but also if you could somehow work a younger guy in there, might be beneficial for you.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed too. Tyrek Mitchell had a bit of a down season last year.
Yeah.
Not sure
He
why.
had his moments where he's still good, but yeah, I don't know. It was a weird year for Palace last year with the whole Vieira thing. I don't know. Lost the locker room's not the right word because guys were still trying. It was more the tactics were just off.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion. Anything else you'd like to say about Crystal Palace before we wrap that up?
No.
Okay. Moving on to the B tier. And I might have this team a little too low, Sam. Aston Villa at B-. Obviously, Emiliano Martinez in net. Now, I feel like he's overrated.
I agree.
But he's still a solid keeper. That much is said.
Yes.
Mings, obviously a very, very nice option back there. The staple of the team. The man who Stevie G took the captain's armband away from for God knows what reason. Pau Torres, new signing.
Yes.
Very important for them. Alex Moreno, guy they signed in the winter window as well. Matty Cash, obviously a staple for them as well. Diego Carlos, big signing for them last year, got hurt a few games in. Still some rotation pieces with Esri Konsa. Calum Chambers didn't really play that much last year. The year before looked pretty decent. And then Courtney House, I don't know if he has much of a future. Same with Luca Digne.
No.
Toasted.
Yeah.
Well, we've always said he was a luxury player to have.
Yeah, they got some guys to move in terms of center back. I think they could do with some more depth in fullback positions as well. Moreno and Cash are good, but after that, you just kind of got Luca Digne, and then Calum Chambers can play, but not a.
Who is
attacking.
this guy? Finn Azaz. The Irish lad, Finn Azaz.
Finn. I don't know.
He's a midfielder, but I feel pretty decent about their fullback. They have the 2 nailed on fullbacks, Moreno and Cash. Be interesting to see how they rotate the Diego Carlos, Mings, Konsa, Pau Torres, what the Premier League one is, what the Europa Conference League one is.
I wonder if they're going to play back 3
They very well could, and then just have the two guys kind of forward.
Yeah.
And then if they have to go more attacking, maybe a Leon Bailey drops more like a wing back, but then you're really not getting much of a work rate out of him. But, I mean, at least he's a wide player, and you know you're going to be attacking. No, I really like where this team is at. If I had to say worst aspect, I think it probably would be the certain depth as far as fullbacks and kind of clearing out just dead weight in general.
Yeah, get Courtney House, get
Lucadinha. You could probably
get
just to
Lucadinha
raise
out.
funds, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to get rid of Chambers, but
yeah.
you are in European competition, so maybe a fifth fullback where he's not expecting to play a ton won't be terrible. You play him in cup competitions like FA Cup and Carabao Cup and stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
If I was a team, I would be looking at Callum Chambers.
If you were a team.
I think you could get some good value.
I just love you say a team. Like it would make sense if it was like a bad team.
All right. If
I
I
was
was
Man City,
if I'm
Luton,
no, Luton
Sheffield
is not going to spend any money. If
Okay.
I'm Sheffield or
you could probably just get him as a loan too. I don't think it'd be that crazy.
maybe Fulham.
Fulham's not a bad shout. Tottenham.
Tottenham, yeah.
Bournemouth. I kind of like him on Bournemouth.
Potentially.
He's not the strongest defender, but at least he could be playing some balls out of the back and stuff
Yeah,
going forward.
He's
I
a
kinda
good
like that.
passer.
So, no, I like where Villa's at. Moving on. Brentford. The solid B tier right there. David Raya, a big part of that. Fantastic season for Brentford. Got a little too cocky. They're feeling themselves. They're like, Tottenham, you're going to overspend 40 mil. Tottenham's like, nah, not us, not this year. This is Daniel Levy you're talking about. Brentford's like, oh, shit. So they're going to be stuck with Raya. Strakosha as a backup, very nice too. Nathan Collins, the big addition, but so much good depth here. Hickey, Henry obviously staple, Pinnock a staple, Ben Mee a staple. Ayer when he's going is good. Roslev and Sorensen kind of rotation guys along with your guy Zanka.
Charlie Good, the most meme tier player
Yeah.
in the league.
Yeah. The how old is he?
27.
27. He's one of those guys where you're like, I guess he's a prospect. You're like, oh, no, he's 27. He should probably be in, like, the championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are your favorite aspects about this team? Just depth in general, or is there center backs or fullbacks you like more? Goalkeeping situation?
Yeah.
All around is just fantastic.
Depth, I would say, but also kind of the flexibility in the different options, the different play styles that they want to play. If they want to play back three, back four, they can do that. They got players that are flexible in position as well. You got Ayer who can play center back or full back.
If this team had Tony this year, I would be feeling them for
they'd be cooking
for making the Brighton tier jump.
Yeah, I like another year of Aaron Hickey. I think he'll just continue to get better. And, of course, like you said, bringing in Nathan Collins, great addition, and having David Raya.
Especially when you just have to expect that Mee's going to take a slight step back just because he's getting older, even though he was great last year.
Yeah.
Any other things you'd like to talk about with Brentford?
No, I think defense very
If you had
solid.
to pick a worse thing?
If I had to pick a worse thing, I would say left back, maybe Rico Henry.
Oh, I love me some Rico Henry, though.
Yeah, he's not bad.
Although, to be fair,
I just
he's
think
one of those guys, too, where it's like he's better for fantasy and stuff like that, so he'll get a little more likability than actual practicality.
And his best asset is him going forward.
Going forward and crossing.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. Let's move on to the next B-tier team. Liverpool. Bit of a shocker, but given what we saw last year, I don't think we have a choice but to put him here. Alisson, obviously the best goalkeeper in the world. Van Dijk, slight step back. Konate actually looked pretty decent last year.
Mm-hmm.
Robertson, given what Liverpool were, he was probably their most consistent player, in my opinion, besides Alisson, obviously. Matip, big step back. Alexander-Arnold became so unplayable in defense that they moved him to midfield
they
officially.
changed his position.
They still have a bunch of guys that they could probably just offload. I'm looking at you, Joe Gomez and Nathaniel Phillips. No matter how hard Liverpool fans try to meme those guys into existence,
The
us
fact
never
that
get
they
there.
didn't cash in on Nat Phillips after
For like 10 mil,
I think
is
someone would
insanity.
pay more than 10 mil. I
Well,
think someone would pay
15?
15
Yeah.
after the season where they had everyone get hurt and he had
And
to
he-
play a bunch.
Yeah, and he
They
looked
sh-
fine.
They should have cashed in.
Yeah.
So stupid.
I guess Bajsedic is listed as a defender, but I feel like he's more a midfielder.
No, he's
but
a midfielder.
yeah, they still have Shimikas.
I like Schmickus.
They-
He's a great backup for Robertson. They play very
100%.
similar style.
I agree. Shimikas Matip.
Schmickus, my tip.
They're gonna sell Kelleher, as we talked about. Adrian's still the backup. Fantastic backup. One of the best backups.
That guy's living the dream.
Hey, come on now.
I'm
like him.
skeptical if they really will sell Kelleher. I thought that Jurgen Klopp was a big Kelleher fan, but I mean,
What, are you
what
gonna,
can you do
when the pitch is dry?
when Alisson is
When the pitch is dry.
so amazing? You can't hold on to guys forever.
Best aspect, obviously, Allison. Worst aspect, center back depth has
Center
to
back
be
depth and
1,000,000%.
and right back. I mean, now that Trent is officially a
Yeah.
midfielder, so you have no
Really,
right back.
your right back is Fabinho rotating back on the pivot.
Yeah.
So you have that.
Yeah, where's James Milner?
I feel like they can only go up from last year, but given their struggles of last year at times, I have to list them in B. But they could easily make a jump if Van Dijk not gets back to peak Van Dijk, but even just better than what he was last year.
Yeah, and I mean, it was such a big change once they quit.
Pretending
Pretending
Alexander
to-
Arnold was a defender and they put him in
Exactly.
midfield.
Exactly.
Yes, I completely agree. Next up, we have the first B-plus team. Shaoxi. It was their one decent aspect last year in their
The
team.
saving grace of Chelsea.
Yes. Major addition, I guess, is the return of Levi Colwell on loan.
Yeah.
I guess you could say your guy Ethan Apadu returned from loan.
That guy. 22 years old.
Yeah,
How?
he's just been loaned everywhere. He's the
But how
Marco
is he
Van
22?
Hinkel of...
I swear he's been on loan for like the past 10 years, but
Yeah. He
there's
was.
no way he's 22.
He was on loan. They
He's
still
gotta
have
be like
Malang. They still have
27.
Malong Sarr.
That guy.
I guess. Yeah, he sucks. He
Yeah,
might be
he
one of the worst players I've ever seen. Malo Gusto, fullback depth, young fullback depth, solid signing. The best aspect has to be their center back depth with Thiago Silva, Badiashile, Fofana,
Trevor Chalobah.
Trevo, please. Have some respect.
I didn't even know it was Trevo.
Yeah, Trevo Chalobah.
Trevor.
Trava. And obviously, what was I saying? Oh, Fofana is the last guy. Questions, definitely, as far as the wide defense, will always be Reece James is fantastic. Chilwell gets so much hate from Chelsea fans. Very odd. I like him.
Unwarranted.
Yeah, I like him. Same with James. It's just injury concerns with this team is the worst aspect about him.
Well-
Unless you want to say Kepa.
I'll tell you what the best aspect is.
What's that?
Lewis Hall, baby.
Ooh,
Lewis Hall.
let him cook.
Let him cook. Some people say Mark Cucurella, they want him.
Yes.
He's a big flashy player from Brighton. Bring him in. But for me, it's
Lewis
Lewis
Hall.
Hall.
Absolutely. I unironically agree. Just let Lewis Hall cook.
It's funny
Let him
because
cook.
I meme and Hank's like,
Yeah.
yes.
Come on.
I mean, considering the fact that he's 18,
Yeah.
he's solid.
And
for
he's not
18
even,
years old.
yeah. He's just one of those guys where he actually looked half decent because everyone was so bad last year. That's how pathetic Chelsea were.
He looked better than Cucurella, that's for sure.
He looked better than like 90% of the team.
There was a point where he was like the best performing player.
Yeah, he was dropping in dimes, and it would fall to like Havertz or Mudryk, and they'd shank the shot. It's like, oh, well, that could have been an easy goal if you're half decent.
I don't remember Kai Havertz missing easy shots. I thought he was a fantastic player.
Fantastic.
Misunderstood, I would say.
Yeah. Well, speaking of misunderstood, we have the misunderstood manlet, Kepa.
The redemption arc.
Yeah, he kind of had it last year where he's making big-time saves and stuff. His struggle has always just been if anyone takes a rip from outside the box, it kind of goes upper 90 on him every time, and he can't get there because he's at low T-Rex arms.
His struggle has always been the length of his arms.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, was there one good aspect last year? It'd be interesting to see how they do under Poch. Anything else you want to say about Chelsea before we
Well,
move
I
on?
think it's worth noting a lot of the noise around a potential transfer or transfer interest
Yeah.
on Levi
Colwill.
Colwill from Liverpool. Obviously, Brighton want him back. They're like, all right, 40
mil.
40 mil.
And it's like they list him for 80.
Yeah.
It's like, if anything, Man City will try and buy him in like the next year for 80 or 90.
yeah,
and I don't-
And Liverpool is rumored to. Be
I just don't
interested.
see Liverpool they've blown so much money. They bought Sobe. They bought Sobe Water and they bought McAllister. 100 mil from Liverpool, you expect more than that? I get they could use more depth. We just talked about that, but I just don't see it.
I personally, I'm not a buyer on Colwill. I think the price is too crazy.
Yeah, he has to prove it a little more, but I mean the long ball ability is fantastic. The defending it's good for what he is. I think that people get carried away and act like he's a total Rolls Royce guy right off the bat, but we'll see.
Nah.
Guy I expect for Chelsea to have a better year this year will be Wesley Fofana, but
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. Last of the B tier and the B plus, Manchester United. To be fair, their goalkeeper situation right now is Dean Henderson, Tom Heaton, and Nathan Bishop. I'm only putting them in B plus tier, and I know we talked about it, Sam. You can't fully bank on it. You can only go with what you see. But the Faber-Mono tweets right now about them getting Onana, it feels concrete.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to spend 60 mil for him, so you just have to pencil him in, I guess. Lindelof, Maguire, Lissandro Martinez, obviously a staple. Varane, a staple. Dallo, a staple. Luke Shaw, a staple. So much dead weight, and Man U fans act like some of it's good. They're like, Bissaka can't get dribbled past. It's like, he plays 7 games, and half of them are in like the Carabao Cup. Okay? Alex Tejes, Brandon Williams.
They got a lot of fullbacks. They got 5 left backs.
Eric
On
Bailly's
the
still,
squad.
I think, on the team technically.
Yeah, he is.
He'll just be there forever. I don't mind Lindelof as the third choice because you're in the Champions League. The whole Maguire, like, we need to get rid of this guy, and then you list him for 50. That's my problem with Man U, is like, you'll get to the point to where you put a guy in a situation where you have no leverage to negotiate, and you say how bad he is, and then you're like, 50 mil.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not how it works.
Right.
If you don't need the guy, no one's going to offer that. You could offer him to Tottenham for like 25 mil, 30 mil. You might say, well, he's worth more than that. It's like, is he? Because anytime he plays, he doesn't play that well for you anymore. He just doesn't. He plays much better in the England kit. And I think that he needs a change of scenery, like number one change of scenery guy. Because I think he still has some quality in there.
Oh, 100%.
You're still the biggest Harry Maguire.
Dude,
man
I'm
there is.
on board Harry Maguire.
Slabby.
If I was Tottenham, I'd be
throw
buying him.
30.
Yeah, I'd.
You would probably offer you would say Romero for Maguire and 20 mil swap. That's what you go
here's
to
what
them.
you do. You get Maguire and Eric Dyer, the England bros,
Ooh,
lining up. Let them cook. You got to replicate the England squad
McGuire.
to make Harry Maguire feel at home.
Yeah, Harry Maguire, he's pretty good.
I don't know. It's
But that's just what pissed me off about United. But I do like them. Malacia, for whatever reason, like just doesn't play enough in my opinion. But I guess Shaw's good and Dallow's good, so
yeah,
it's
he had
tough.
kind of a resurgence.
But
Good
I mean,
options.
let's not kid ourselves. This defense was kind of shambolic until they got your boy Casemiro last year.
Casemiro. Yeah.
But if you don't have a 6 out there, we've said this all the time, doesn't matter who's playing center back for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think B plus is fair, especially since you're going to be getting Onana.
Or as I like to say, the key to a good defense is a good midfield.
There you go. Let's move to the A tier. First First team. We have one A- team. Your team.
Speaking of Harry McGuigan,
Mitch.
shout out Mitch.
Arsenal, A-. Let's. I'll let you cook, Sam.
Arsenal,
I'll let you cook.
Arsenal.
Do
Well,
you think this is fair given the fact that you have Ramsdale and Saliba? Would you just put them in A? I think the depth is what made me drop them to an A-. I don't trust it.
Well, I think it's fair to say A- because we saw Saliba goes down and the team went down.
To be fair, he didn't play Kivor, who is goated.
He is goated.
So maybe it's just Mick Arteta's fault.
Yeah, but I like the defense.
Immediately cuts away from it.
Ramsdale, Saliba, Gabriel, bringing in Timber.
Yeah.
I like that. Some versatility there.
Little guy.
Kivior, I liked him at the end of the season there.
I always want to hold out for Tierney, but it might just not work. He might be on the change of scenery guy.
We're Tierney pilled here.
Yeah,
and then you got the beautiful Ben White, and also another one of my guys, Tomiyasu.
Another one of you guys, Nuno Tavares.
Nuno Tavares.
Is he back from loan? Or
Yes.
is he still in France?
The worst defender ever.
He's the wing back, but he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, he's more like they failed winger, I guess. I don't know. He's not good enough to be a winger, but not
Cedric
good enough to be
Soares
defensive.
out. Rob Holding apparently going to go to Turkey or something. I saw that.
They
for
offered
like 2 mil.
2.5 million euros.
Yep.
Like,
I don't think they
come
have
on.
more money than that in Turkey, to be fair.
come on. If I was another team,
Yes.
there's so many players that it's like, just buy Rob Holding. If you're forced, buy Rob Holding for like 10
You'd probably
mil.
just loan him if you really had to. Like
yeah,
if
we
it
all
got
know
late in the
Arsenal
year.
can't sell players worth a damn. So, yeah, offer
You really should
5
be
mil.
selling Matt Turner to a team for 10, 15 mil.
The penalty, savior, and then failure.
Yeah, stinker. I'm glad you agree A- is fair. First A team, Newcastle United.
Newcastle,
Probably just the best defense last year. I think most people would say City. If you're going off pure numbers, it's really close. It's tough to say. Pope, Trippier, Boltman, Cher, Dan Burn. It doesn't get much better than that. With that said, the depth is kind of concerning,
The depth.
especially since you're going to be playing Champions League.
Once you get to the depth, you're looking at the old
Your best,
Newcastle.
your best depth is Matty Target.
Yeah.
Very nice. You still have Paul Dummett somehow. How's he not retired? He's
There's-
only 31.
There's some
I don't
rough.
believe that.
Jamal Lewis.
Yeah, Javi Manquillo,
Javi Manquillo.
Liverpool's finest. Javi Manquillo. They still have Isaac Hayden. Oh man, they have a lot of clear out to do. But they still have Karius and Dubravka and Carl Darlow. Carl Darlow is your fourth keeper, Sam.
Let's go.
I think that's pretty good. Given what they did last year, obviously, their best aspect was they probably, in my opinion again, can be wrong, the best starting four of any Premier League team as far as the back four goes. Worst aspect, like we said, the depth. Now that you're in the Champions League, is going to be a bit tough. What are your thoughts on Newcastle, Sam?
Yeah, I agree. Botman and Cher were a great pairing, and then you have Dan Burn as well in there.
We've always been Dan Burn
we were
boys
Dan Burn stands from day one.
from Fulham times.
Look at
We're
this.
like, look at this big,
look at this
big feller, this
tall
tall
lad.
glass of water.
Then when he's playing left back, it's like, look at this guy. He's so tall. But yeah,
It's like
like you
looking at a
said,
fat cat. Look at this.
the
Look at this
depth.
fat man.
The depth is an area that will need to be addressed
Yes.
for sure.
All right, let's move on to the last team. Oh, well, if you had to pick one for Newcastle, what would you rather drop? An extra center back or an extra full back first?
I'd say probably another fullback.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Lascelles can be like,
A makeshift,
Some-
especially if you're playing a bad Premier League team.
and
you can plug
if
him
you
in.
have the rest of those guys around him,
Yeah.
you can kind of get away with it.
Even if you had to load up the midfield a little more defensively too, to kind of hide them. Man City, the other A team, obviously Ederson and net, Walker, Diaz, Stones, Ake. Tremendous depth with Akanji and Laporte. What can you say?
Yeah, being able to take a guy
Joao
like
Cancelo and you can just loan him out. You're like, we don't need that guy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Being able to just exile a guy like Joao Cancelo and be like, yeah, get out of here.
Smell you later.
And then you
Bad
see
attitude
no
guy.
drop off whatsoever.
And they do have Hardwood Bellis, who actually is one of their prospects, who's actually somewhat proven. He had a very good year on Burnley last year. He'll probably get loaned to a Premier League team this year. We'll see. But
Rico Lewis playing some minutes last season as well. Stepping
who
up
didn't
in
play
the
it
role.
was, even though it's midfield, Calvin Phillips, in case you didn't know.
Calvin Phillips.
The fat man.
Rumors that Kyle Walker may go to Bayern, which is
Very odd.
maybe the most FIFA transfer of all time. But yeah, like you said,
Do they really want to mess with Man City after Man City gave him Cancelo? Also, what do Man City do with Cancelo? Do they just bring him back and act like nothing happened?
that's
Because
a
you were
good question.
letting Gucci Grealish cook on that wing, and it really opened up well.
Yeah, and bringing that bad personality.
We'll see. Maybe he's a changed man. Maybe he learned his lesson. They're like, go to Bayern.
He's
and
like, oh, not that again.
yeah.
But like you said, it's not only the amount of depth, it's the quality of depth. All these guys are really talented players that could be playing top teams
All over Europe.
all over Europe. Yeah. And that's why
Yeah, there's definitely
won
no
the-
weak point.
Premier League. Ederson, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, he's still, when it
He's
matters
a top
most,
keeper, but not.
when it matters most, he comes up big, and you saw that in the Champions League with
That's
that big
true.
save at the end.
That's true.
Yeah, is there anyone that you felt was kind of outlandish that I shouldn't have put, whether for good or bad reasons? Maybe one team who's too high, one team who's too low.
I was a little surprised with your Manchester United rating. Felt they were a little high,
Yeah,
but
I mean, again, it's one of those things where they had Casemiro, it was fine. When they didn't,
Yeah.
it was not nearly as well.
yeah, I mean when you get guys like Varane too, top.
Yeah,
top
not to mention
players,
he's probably going to drop off here soon. You never know.
That's true,
But- And again, they would be lower too, especially if they didn't have the Onana thing pretty
Yeah.
much cemented. Yeah,
yeah, defense,
there it is.
it's foundation. A
Don't-
lot of guys that should be signed by teams.
Yeah, I agree.
Why is no one signing Rob Holding or Callum Chambers?
Why is no one signing these guys?
If I was freaking Nottingham Forest, I'd be like, all right,
Bring 'em in.
Yeah, bring him in.
Any news that happened that you'd want to talk about
Well,
as of late in the Premier League?
Harry Kane, the rumblings to Bayern,
I think he just
couple
stays.
bids. I mean, yeah, I don't see a world where he gets transferred, but there's, where's there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, I suppose it. And it's not even Bayern and going to Bayern. It's just like, why leave now?
Yeah, when you could have left.
You could have left like even 2 years ago. It makes sense. You probably should have left like 3 to 4 years ago. But even
Yeah.
2 years ago, it made sense. Once Poch was gone, it's like, what's the point of staying? And now you're like pretty close to Shearer's record. You're gonna go to Bayern for like
Yeah.
2-3 years and then come back, and I don't know. It's weird.
And yeah, I mean when he had a chance to go to City too.
City, the United's always on the table if he ever wants it.
Yeah.
100%. He can't do Chelsea unless he goes on a free. So I don't know. It could happen, but
don't rule it out. How would you feel if that happened?
I mean, he'd probably pick 9, and then he would not break
He'd
the
be
curse. He would,
trash.
yeah, yep. That's how
That'd
it'd
be
go.
hilarious.
That would actually be so funny.
Yeah, that would be chaotic.
Yes, you got to pick 19. If you're a Chelsea striker, you got to pick 19.
Or he could go to his boyhood club,
Arsenal,
Arsenal.
good.
He was at the parade.
Yeah, could go back to Leicester.
Dude, let's go
or
running
Norwich.
back.
Norwich goes on back on loan. Yeah, any other? I'm trying to think of any juicy stuff that,
It feels like it's been kind of quiet.
which is good. I mean, that just means that things are going to be
It's going to pop
rumbling.
off.
Yeah, it's going to pop off here soon. It's already mid-July. We're less than a month away from Premier League action. I think we're like probably 27, 28 days out. Yeah, I think the only thing for Chelsea has to be the Lukaku thing, which is getting weird now. Did you read that like Inter Milan's really upset with Lukaku?
Because he met with Juventus.
Yeah. It's like maybe you just pay 40 mil for him, Inter Milan.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just an idea.
I don't know. Don't pay him. Don't pay that guy. He's trash.
Well, he's fat.
He is fat.
Yeah, the only other thing I saw interesting today was Willie Yonto to Everton is becoming closer and closer.
Apparently, Willian is going to
The
Nottingham
Forest, he had his medical apparently. I like that. That's funny. Sure, why not?
It's so funny that he had this like career resurgence at Fulham, and then he's like,
Nottingham Forest to
"Yeah,
cash in.
I think I'll leave."
Yeah. No, you don't want to overstay your welcome. Got to get paid, even though they offered him like $100K.
Yeah.
Crazy. What was Fulham thinking offering that man $100K? That'll wrap it up. Next week, you want to do attack or midfield, Sam?
Midfield.
Midfield.
Yes.
We're going to be ripping some midfield action.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, adios. Mis amigos.
Sayonara.
Harry Maguire.